Hi,
Hi,
it's Mr. Oliver. I came back. I came over to help, and this is
Ms. Evelyn Fisk, interim principal.
I came over to help out a school that I love. I was here for 4 years. We were having some scheduling issues, and they actually started back when I was here, so it was only the right thing to do to come over and help. So I wanted to talk a bit to parents today about where we're at and what's going on. And if you don't mind, I'm going to steal the spotlight from Mrs. Fisk because she's got a Tampa Bay mask on and I don't want to
Yay,
have
go
to see it.
Zach!
And I actually don't want to speak with my mask on. So, how's everybody doing? First of all, sorry about the quick departure at the end of the summer. Sometimes things just happen, but I'm not going to leave the junior high in any kind of a spot. So we ran into some snags with the schedule, and I decided I'd come over and help them out today. Evelyn's been working just as hard as she can, and so is Mrs. Zaza and Mr. Norris and Mr. Alexander and everybody in the office. But they hit a wall, and I came over to see what I could do to help. And I'm not sure that we fixed everything, but we definitely got some things fixed. So bear with me for a couple of minutes and I'll walk you through what we've been working on. So, the big problem that you've probably seen as a parent is the schedule. If you look at it on its surface, the way it was printed, it kind of looks like your kid was only getting 2 days of instruction a week. So, by the end of this, I'll talk about that. The other thing that is, in some cases, there was just blanks in the schedule, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But we've got both of those things fixed. One of them, I just need to talk with you a little bit about the concept of how the schedule works, and the other one was actually a problem in the schedule. So we'll talk about all that as we go through. Um, I don't want to bore people to death with the original educational plan because unless you speak fluent edubabble like I do, you probably wouldn't understand most of it, or really you wouldn't care to understand most of it. But in the original plan, we had remote classes, which was the kids at home, hybrid classes, which were the kids that were coming into school, and those two groups were always separate. So, what broke our original plan, and this was the plan that I was working on starting in, the end of June last year, and then all summer long as I was leading the curriculum and instruction committee for 712. The plan was to keep those two groups separate and to have teachers scheduled to be remote teachers and other teachers scheduled to be live teachers and to kind of keep everything nice and separate in two groovy little boxes. The problem is as we got closer to the fall, and things in the community started perking up a little bit. We ended up with a lot more students opting into remote learning than we had anticipated. And at some point, that number became so much that it essentially broke the schedule. We could not keep the remote students isolated anymore into remote classes. And it was never an isolation, it was more of something to make them easier instructionally to have remote teachers working with remote kids. But at some point, we couldn't keep them all contained into the number of sections that we had originally put into the schedule. Therefore, the whole thing kind of just unzipped. If you've never built a schedule before, they always hit a point where they just don't work anymore. And we hit that point with the schedule. And that's why everything looks funky in your schedules and feels a little off. So before I get into what we're doing about it, I just want to talk a little bit. I have to hit you with two big words that I hate to use. And at this point, I'd like to ban them from my own vocabulary. But we have two kinds of instruction going on at the school. There's synchronous instruction and asynchronous instruction. Synchronous instruction, for lack of a better word, is instruction that is live with a teacher. Asynchronous instruction is teacher-led instruction, but they're not live with the teacher. So both of those things are going on. So I put just a little checklist together for you. What is synchronous instruction? Synchronous is teacher-led lessons with robust curriculum, with important content, with rigorous expectations, where students must produce work and the teacher is present in the lesson. An asynchronous lesson is exactly the same, except the teacher's not present in the lesson. But the teacher is still available for the student should they have questions. The problem is not problem. The way that we've done the lessons is our teachers have one group of students and then another group of students rather than putting them all together into one class. And that was built that way for health and safety, physical distancing standards when we were bringing everybody back to school. We have to keep the schedule that way because we have every expectation that we'll be back in school. And if we changed it all up now, we'd be in terrible shape should we be able to come back to school live. But I need to explain those two words to you, and I hope that that helps solve them or summarize them a little bit to talk you through the schedule. So, how we're going to fix this is instead of keeping the remote kids sort of separate in remote classes, they're going to be sprinkled through the regular schedule. So teachers will have both hybrid kids and remote kids in the same class, and they'll have to teach them synchronously together. But for your kid, what the schedule looks like is this grid that's on the board in front of you. On Monday, all of our students have digital lessons. What I mean by this is there's real content, real work they have to do. Monday is the only day in the week that kind of looks like what we did last spring, but every kid's got things to do. We're going to take attendance on Mondays. Kids will have work to do on Mondays. Teachers will be delivering content on Mondays. The only difference is it's not sort of at their time. As you get into Tuesday through Thursday, that's when we get into the rotating lessons where A kids have live lessons with their teachers. So they have to follow their schedule and meet with their teachers in their Google Classrooms on Tuesday and Thursday. On Wednesday and Friday, the B Day kids meet live with their teachers, follow their schedules, and have live lessons. The opposite days are digital days again, where the teacher's posting content. But as a parent, I would tell you, I would have my own kid following their schedule, checking their Google Classrooms, and doing the work for those lessons on the digital day. And if they have questions, that would be a time to email their teacher or do whatever they need to do. So there was a notion out there that I had seen on the Leary Facebook page that my kid's only getting 2 days of instruction. Well, that's just patently false. Your kid is actually getting 5 days of instruction. What they're getting is 2 days of live meet with the teacher, but that's what we have to do because of the hybrid schedule we had to build. So we would all love to have 5 days a week with live kids in our room, but right now the health and safety standards don't allow us to do it. So I wanted to be very clear. Every student in junior high school is getting 5 days of instruction. They're getting 2 days of face-to-face instruction. And I would beg parents not to compare that with other buildings because what the elementary is doing is a little bit different and what the high school is doing is a little bit different. But the plan here at the junior high school is a rigorous plan that has your students doing far more meaning or far more work than we were able to do last spring in emergency room. The only exception, by the way, to the 2 days of live learning would be a group of students that we've prioritized for 4 days a week of instruction, and I put their schedule on the bottom. But the main point here is to get the point across is that everybody's getting 5 days, 2 live days, 3 digital days, but all of them are instructional days. And you and your kids should treat it that way and treat it accordingly. And as I said, at least on the off day on Tuesday through Friday, as a parent, I'd have my kid following their schedule and doing the work for those classes per the schedule to help them organize their day. So I hope that helps. Um, so every day in the junior high, every student must, and this is Monday to Friday, every day they have to go into their Google Classrooms. They have to complete any and all work assigned. They have to be marked present in their classes, and their teachers will explain to them what they need to do to be marked present on the various days, whether it's a Monday or a digital day or a live day. We need our students to be practicing good online etiquette, being good citizens in the classroom. We understand that our kids are young and they're going to be prone to making mistakes, but there's certain mistakes that just aren't allowable. So anything parents could do to remind kids that even though they might be sitting in their bedroom doing their classes, when they're on that Chromebook interacting with us, they're still at school, and we will hold them accountable for their behavior in those moments, even though they're sitting in their bedroom. So make sure your kids are practicing good online etiquette. You might want to check out the spaces they're in to make sure there's no posters on the wall or anything behind them that we wouldn't want to see, or those kinds of things. So, make sure that you're thinking about that stuff at home. And every day, the last thing on my list is we need to have students seeking teacher support. If they're live, they have the ability to hit them up in the Google chat or ask a question live. If they're a digital day student, they have the ability to remote or throw up a post in the Google Classroom, and the teacher will work with them. So make sure your students are doing all of those things every day. And then as we get to the end of my little presentation here today, I want to let you know that we are going to have to move some things around in the schedules and reschedule things and maybe shuffle some kids around a little bit. So I just wanted to let you know as an FYI that there are schedule changes coming. We're going to remail schedules as soon as we possibly can. Um, and between now and when that schedule mailing comes out, I want to tell you up front, I've spoken with Mrs. Fisk at length about this. They're going to be incredibly flexible at the junior high schools. We know things are in transition. Have your kids do the best they can. Keep checking in on the classes they're in until they get their schedule change. She'll have the same conversations with the teachers over here. And then the last things that I would like to speak to you about is, I may not be the principal at JW Leary anymore, but I still check your Facebook page. And I would beg of you to be patient with everybody in the building as we move through. The tone and tenor of some of the comments last week about some of the issues that were going on at the junior high school got a little disconcerting to the point where we actually locked the page down for a little while. I want to tell you that, when I left, it was a terrible thing to leave the building 2 weeks before school started, and I felt terrible about it. And then we're thrown into a pandemic, and then we choose to go remote 2 weeks after I choose to leave the building. It was an impossible spot for Mrs. Fisk and everybody else to step into. So please be patient with us as we're getting open. We've never had to open school in a pandemic before, and we've certainly never had to open school in a pandemic before where there was a big change in administration 2 weeks before it happened. So use the Facebook page for what it was intended, a way to ask general questions and seek clarification and information. If you have specific questions, you should be getting a hold of the school. And Mrs. Fisk or Mrs. Zaza or Mr. Alexander or Mr. Norris will be able to help you. And then finally, I would remind you that we have to come together as a community in order to make this work. This hybrid instruction is nothing that anybody would choose. The school would not choose it. A parent would not choose it. Nobody would choose it. It's not the most ideal situation. But if we work together, if we keep communicating, if we keep supporting each other, we're going to make a great education for our kids. And then when we're ready to come back together, everything will work seamlessly and smoothly to get all of our kids back into school again. So just remember, as a school, we'll continue to support you, and we hope that you'll continue to support us. And as always, if you have any questions, just give the school a call. By all means, give me a call, even though I'm over at the high school now, or Mrs. Fisk. Everybody in our school system is ready to help our kids. And if that means I need to help at the junior high school, then I'll come over and help at the junior high school. I hope everybody's having a great day. I hope your summer ended well, and we'll see you around real soon. Thanks for some time today. Goodbye.